and Senator Paxton.
Good morning. How are you?
Man, as Kathy would say, we're rocking and rolling and whatnot.
How are you is the question. How many days? I mean, we're like in the 5-day countdown to sine die.
That's right. Let's see. Wednesday today. Is that right? Is today Wednesday?
Yeah.
I don't really remember. It is kind of funny, and I know both of you have watched the legislature for a long time, and so this isn't something you're unfamiliar with, but they're calendar days. We all know what that means, but they're also legislative days, and it depends on, there are times where we'll recess, and then we come back, or we adjourn. And when you adjourn, then you're ending that legislative day. And so sometimes a legislative day can go on for more than 24 hours, and then and so there are times on the floor when the members will be looking at each other, and we'll say, for example, today, it's Wednesday, we'll go, is today Tuesday or Wednesday? So I think, anyway, but right now I'm actually talking about a calendar day. I don't even know what day it is. But yes, I guess it is Wednesday. Today's the last day for the House or Senate to pass bills on the floor. So midnight is our deadline for that.
Good times. Well, so what do we have to look forward to? What do you think will be done in these last few days? What are some updates? And especially, we've got Cody Weaver on set with us today from the Plano ISD board, representing himself and his own opinions today. But education's been a huge topic. We had Dr. Good on earlier, who's she's got a show on all things public ed. What can we expect in education here in the last few days? Any surprises? Anything that's going to be added on to an already existing bill?
Well, we've got the big education bill that Senator Taylor is carrying. That is, partly kind of it's the follow-up. Sometimes we call these cleanup bills, but kind of a follow-up bill, a honing bill, maybe is another way to look at it, from HB 3 from last session, which was, a massive overhaul of education funding and a lot of reform measures for performance and all of that. So there are a lot of things, of course, that over the interim we looked at, and there are things that sometimes have unintended consequences, sometimes things that you realize were overlooked. Sometimes things that you see that's working and it would work even better if. And so there are a lot of those types of measures. Of course, in the interim, we also have the whole COVID thing with the schools. And so there are a lot of things related to that. There's a tremendous amount of federal funding coming in related to COVID for our schools. Most of that will be directed to the Title I schools, the schools that have larger numbers of students that are on free and reduced lunch. And but there have been some exciting things that I think we've looked at. We are looking at how to make sure that when we educate virtually, that it's done really well. And that's not something that had happened to any great extent prior to COVID. But I think we all see that while we want our kids in the classroom in person, that there is a real place for virtual learning, but it needs to be done well. And we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't. So there's some things in that direction. Another thing that I'll bring up is that there was a lot related to curriculum that was passed in the Senate, and I think in the House, a number of those things that relate to schools, related to curriculum. For example, making sure that we are teaching American history and what it is that makes America unique and special, and a real statement against I know your listeners are familiar with the concept of critical race theory.
Yes.
We were up all night the other night passing that in the Senate, and basically, critical race theory for all of its, claims to be about eradicating racism, it teaches racism. It really does. And I was talking with Senator Hughes, who laid that bill out for about 5 hours, I think, overnight, Monday night, maybe. Again, I don't remember what day we're on, but I actually engaged in a little bit of the discourse on that bill as a teacher myself. But in that bill, it basically says teachers shall not teach that one race is superior to another. That's part of the critical race theory. And, one of the things Senator Hughes and I were talking about is, if you're against critical race theory, proponents of that will say that you're racist, right? But I told Senator Hughes, I said, under critical race theory, whether you're for it or against it, you're racist. Because if you're for it, then basically it is, well, you're acknowledging you're racist. If you're for critical race theory, because it's like everyone's all white people basically are racist. It's like you can't not be. And then if you're against it, you're racist because you're against it, right? So it's a big thing. Another thing that we were able to pass through the Senate. I don't know how it ended in the House, but is protecting girls' sports, also related to education.
Yes.
And so we were able to pass that in the Senate. That was a big priority for us.
Well, and that was one of the questions one of our crew members had was, will we be able to pass a bill to stop the transgender? Part of it is the in sports with women, and Kathy and I talked about this on Monday, Senator Paxton, with the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic League and the lawsuit that's in the Second Court of Appeals now. But one of the other questions that's come out is, are we going to be able to stop transgender and mutilation of children?
Well, and I don't know where that landed in the House last night, and that's really the question. We passed it in the Senate. And so, and if you will allow me just a moment, allow me, I take it anyway, don't I? I'm like, I have a microphone, I will speak.
Your family, it's all good.
Well, one of the things last night that we also passed, and I got to carry this bill and push it across the finish line, and that was it was the companion to my Senate Bill 9, House Bill 1280, Capriglione, the Human Life Protection Act, passed last night. And
excellent.
So that is the bill that, should the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade, that within 30 days that law will go into effect, because that would return abortion lawmaking authority to the states.
Right.
And we are stating this is where we are. Abortion will be illegal in Texas should it be returned to the states 30 days after any such case is decided. Now, when I passed Senate Bill 9 on the House floor at the end of March 30th, I believe, we all knew that we had a new Supreme Court composition, right, that made this possible. But last night when I passed this bill, the reality is more in view, because now there is a case. There is such a case before the Supreme Court, a Missouri case, that basically, as I understand it, would explore the kind of the pre-viability types of abortion laws that we can, that's kind of been a touch point on a lot of the abortion restrictions that we've been able to enact over the years. But we do have a case before the Supreme Court that could overturn Roe v. Wade. And so last night, we may have put Texas in a position to protect human life from conception until natural death.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. And this is all these things I like, especially, from the Senate side. There have been a lot of things, and we really appreciate you bringing this to the show on a weekly basis, because we know your time is just jam-packed. But y'all have done a lot of things proactively, because we only meet every 2 years, as a legislative body. So y'all have done things proactively not knowing what's going to happen, as for example, at the Supreme Court level with some of these things. That way, Texas is in a better place to let Texans determine the course of how Texans are going to live.
Well, and on this issue in particular, because we only meet every other year, my understanding is that the court is likely to rule on this by next June. So we would still have another, 6 months before we would be back in session in order to make a law in response to that. So what this bill does is it sets us up so that should that happen, that immediately life will be saved. And, I was talking to my chief of staff after we finished the bill last night, Randy Samuelson, and he said, there was a hush in the room when you sat down. Not because of what I said, but because of the impact.
Yes.
All I said was, I move final passage of House Bill 1280, the Human Life Protection Act.
Wow.
And,
there you go.
So powerful.
Well, Senator Paxton, thank you for that.
I think it was sacred. Yeah, I think it was a sacred moment. Well, it took a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
One person can't pass anything. It was frustrating to watch. I was watching the House because the Every Mother Matters Act was on the calendar. They didn't get to it last night, which means it's dead. And that's frustrating because the House gabbled out on Thursday and 2 days of calendar didn't happen, and that bill could have come up. Of course, it could have been scheduled for the floor earlier too. And that will be one of my frustrations and one of my disappointments for this session is that bill didn't make it through the House, and it could have.
So, Senator Paxton, we have some questions from the crew. I don't know if you can have somebody from your staff go on and look at the feed and maybe answer some of them. One of them is about Antifa and BLM being able to shut down traffic in Collin County, and are we addressing that at a state level? So some things like that, but we just can't thank you enough for joining us here, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again next Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, this is our last meeting for the session, so it's been great to be able to connect throughout the session. Thanks for helping be a megaphone for what matters in the Texas legislature right now. Thanks for also being a megaphone to me, so I can stay in touch with things in an additional way. So appreciate what y'all do, and I hope you have a great day. Keep praying. This is the last day on the floor. Encourage people to keep praying and watching for the final passage of the things they care about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator.